All right, here we go. Let's give this another try. I'll make a mod for some game and take you along the way. So just the first entrance to a mod. So the one I picked just now is Into Black because it's a nice game that I know that has Unity as an engine, which works out for Melon Loader and should probably get some bhaptic support. I don't know if I'll actually finish the mod, but that's a good start. So the first thing you'll want to do is install Melon Loader on the mod. So if you start up the installer, you can find the game here, select a version, just take the newest one, and then you install it. And what you need to do then is run the game once. So there are a couple of different, I'll show you. Manage browse local files. That's how you get to the folder where the game actually is. And you can see that Into the Black data has a IL2CPP data folder, which means that it's an IL2CPP game. That means that it's pre-compiled into C++ first and then compiled again, and some of the data is getting lost there. If it's a mono game, that's what it's called, you'll actually see a managed data folder in here. And that's much easier to mod because you can actually see the entire code once this is disassembled. But what Melon Loader does right now is decompiling the game libraries so you can actually see them and look what's happening. Oh, I actually tried to make a mod for that already at some point. Let's delete that. Try again. Okay, so we don't need that anymore. Apparently, I already tried that once. Might not have gone too well then. So what Melon Loader does is in the folder Melon Loader, now there's an IL2CPP assemblies folder, and in there is all the disassembled DLLs of the game, so you can have them readable later on. You still need a program to look into those files properly. I use .peek by JetBrains because I like the JetBrains IDE and software. So you can also use dnSpy, which some people do. They're both free, available on the internet. You can just download them. And if you start that up, this is still an old one that I want to remove. You can just drag and drop the assembly C#. Usually I sort this by size, and I can see that this is a standard library, and then there's assembly C#, which means that this is the main file that the game is using. The mscarlib is obviously in there in Unity Engine, but this is the game library. Sometimes they're called differently, the DLL you actually want, but then you'll have to take this one. This assembly C#, you can just drag and drop into the .peek. And then you can see that in here you can already make out all the functions that are in the game. This is a really long list of all the methods and all the classes that are in this game. And they can be pretty overwhelming, so we'll search for some stuff we need afterwards. You won't have to comb through all of that at the same time. So the next thing we want to do is Visual Studio. So this is a community edition for Visual Studio. You should also use that. And then create a new project and use a class library. So there are, if you have a mono game, you'll have to install, you'll have to compile it with an older version of .NET, and that's not a class library. That's called differently. That is called class library. That is called class library.NET framework. That's the one you'll want to use for not an IL2CPP game, but a mono game. But in this case, it's IL2CPP, so class library is what we want. And we'll call that, I usually just pick the name, in this case, Into Black, and then bhaptics at the end. And create a standard. Yes, .NET 6 is fine. So for a mono game, you'll have to use .NET 4, but or .NET 3.5 even? Nope, .NET 4, 4.8. .NET 6 is out of support, but Melon Loader still uses that, so we'll use .NET 6. And yeah, that opens you a first window. The first thing I do usually is I rename this to into black underscore bhaptics, and it'll ask me to rename the class inside here as well. I say yes to that. So that's the first thing we do. Very easy so far. The next thing you want to do, because you use it all the time, is manage browse local files. I usually use this into black folder and pin it right here on the left to my pin it. There you go. To my game folder, so I can access it easily and find it quickly. Because the next thing you want to do is in melon loader in the directory, there's a latest.log file. I usually open that with some editor, for example, Notepad. And you can see all the generation in here. That's going to be much shorter the next time you start it up. But the important thing you need is the game name into black, the exact same way, spelled the exact same way, and the game developer, the binary mill. You'll need that for the mod, so you know that it'll start up later on. Into black. There you go. Okay, the next thing I'll do is add project reference. So we'll have to add all the files. This is the wrong folder. So I'll just copy, paste this over here so I can find it more easily. And then in here in the IL2CPP assemblies, we'll have to reference the assembly C# so we can hook into the functions later on. We'll also have to reference in Melon Loader. You can see here there's net6 for the IL2CPP games. There's also net 3.5 for older games. So you'll have to reference zero harmony, which is the harmony lib that you need for hooking, and you'll have to use the Melon Loader DLL. You can use the bhaptics lib included in Melon Loader, but that's not compatible with the newest SDK2, so I usually don't. I usually use the external bhaptics library. All right, that's pretty good for now. There you go, assemblies. The one thing I usually do as well is I mark all those, and then in the properties I switch copy local to no, because I don't want to copy these. They're already in the game. They're already loaded. I don't need to reload them again. Okay, now the next thing I do is open another window, then it's easier to see, and then go to my repos, and you can see budget cuts is a bit older. Let's use crossings. I tried to make a crossings mod just now. So I copy these three files over, bhaptics.tag.dll and bhapticslibrary.dll. These are the bhaptics library that can connect to the new SDK2. And then this is the standard file I always use for all the interactions with the bhaptics player, so I don't have to do that again. So copy this and paste it into my new file. Great. Okay. And then I can add another reference, add project reference. And now I'll browse to where I start this and use this bhaptics tag DLL. It's also the bhaptics reference in there. Nice. You can already see that into black bhaptics is also in here, and the bhaptics tag suit that I used is also already in here. Okay, great. And then I'll do another steal, easy steal basically. So I'll use some old project that I have. In this case, I'll use Thief VR, but you can use anyone. So I don't have to retype everything myself. Hello? Hello? Why is there nothing open here? Okay. So using Melonode and HarmonyLib and bhaptics tagsuit, those are the ones I will have to use anyways. So I'll just copy paste those over into my new project. This just means that the Melonloader namespace is loaded, the HarmonyLib namespace, and the my bhaptics tagsuit namespace that I used here in this file. And then the next one is, this here is the assembly info that Melon Loader needs to know which game to load on. So I also copy paste those over. It's a bit easier. And I can just say into black bhaptics here at the bottom, into black bhaptics. And I'll call my mod the same way. And yeah, you can put a version in here and an author name. And then here, the Melon game, you'll need to put the exact name of the developer and game that we found out earlier. So the binary mill is the name of the developer. Plop. And into black is the name of the game. I always copy paste this in case there's, I don't know, I forget a weird leading space bar or something. Something like that. All right. Now we'll make this class a melon node class, a melon mod class, which means that it sets on melon mod, makes things easier. And then the next thing I do is usually I copy over this here. We probably don't even need the second line. So what this does is from the my bhaptics tagsuit file that I have, it creates a class instance of this tagsuit VR class that I created, and it'll easily have you can this way you can easily just access the tagsuit and everything. Okay, that's good. Now, so we can actually do something in our game, we'll have to open I'm not gonna, no. Okay, so we'll have to go to the bhaptics developer portal, which if you log in looks like this. You can see all the, oh, I already have an into black. See, I actually did try to make a mod for that. So you can just create a new one, a new application. And if you do, you can add some effects. There's only heartbeat, recoil, and impact in here, so I didn't really finish the mod, obviously. But I already made one. And then if you create an API key, click on create, then it'll create an API key for you. And then you deploy the version that you made. You can see that here in the deployments and the settings, you can find that you have a deployed version. So there's an application ID. If you click on here, it'll copy that. So be sure to paste that. App ID is the first string, and then API key is the second string. So you can connect to this. Okay, that's pretty good already. Then we have onInitialize Melon. This is the first thing that happens when Melon Loader starts up, and it's a standard method that it provides that you can do everything here that needs to be done in the very beginning. So what I do is create my instance of my tagsuit class, and then play back one heartbeat. That's so it lets me know that the mod started up successfully. That's the first thing I do, and then because I don't want to learn the syntax by heart, I also copy paste over one of these functions. And I'll run you through what they do, because that's the first thing I'll do for you. Okay, so let's go into the .peek here and search for something. So you can search for health to see if there's, or for damage to see if the player gets hit or something. The first thing I'll try to do in a shooter like this sorry, is find a suitable shoot function, light projectile shoot. So this is probably not the one I want. Projectile shoot might be the one I want. Yeah, looks pretty good. That's an IL to CPP, so in the root. Shoot. On shoot, gun shoot, launcher view, on shoot. Shooter entity ID. Let's use this for fun. So if you double click here, if this were a mono game, you would actually see the code, but it isn't. So you can't see the code. This is just a stub and you can't see anything. The only thing you can do is, the only thing you can see is the shoot. And if you close this view here, you can see in this class gun shoot launcher view. Let's gun shoot launcher view. There you go. And then there's an on shoot. So you hook into the class gun shoot launcher view into the method on shoot. This is the one we find here, right? And it has a projectile shot DTO parameter as well. So you can tell Metal Loader use the method that has one in this case. This is in this case it was two. Has one parameter of the type. Let's see if this is in there. Yeah, it is. Okay. And we name this accordingly gun shoot. Okay. So let me tell you what this does roughly. Okay, so this is a simple function. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. The Harmony patch will look for this class and this method with these parameters, this array of parameters. And if it finds this, it'll hook into that method. This is a postfix, which means that it'll be executed after this function is called in the game. And we can do everything here, and we can also, as in this postfix, this is the way it's written in Harmony as a hook method. You can also use the instance that was triggering the hook. So you can use this exact instance, and you can also, if there's parameters, for example, have the projectile shot, this one here, and I think it was just called underscore, which doesn't really make sense, but okay. You can also use that. If you can see, this is called underscore here. It usually has a bool on a more useful name. Well, arc1, arc2, arc3. I think this developer wasn't really that creative. Okay, but you can also use that in your method. So you can read all the parameters of the instance that you're working with. For example, in this case, you can see that this has a state and an exploder. I would guess that inside the state there might be some interesting stuff. So let's check if we can find out if, for example, instance dot state dot there's nothing in here. This is probably the wrong function that we're hooking into. Shoot. Come on, it's searching. Okay. Gun shoot recoil view, that's probably the better one. Gun shot recoil view. Oh, that's in a different namespace, and it is in, let's see. Gameplay weapons, there you go. So you can, yeah, exactly like this. Gameplay weapons, perfect, already did that for me. Did I misspell? Yep, I did misspell somewhere. Okay. On shoot. And this doesn't have any parameters, so I would say just send this an empty array of parameters. This means there's no parameter in there. Yeah, okay. Let's lose this instance. Maybe we'll find something. Yes, this is way more interesting in here. We might have to take a look at the entity because this is a multiplayer game, so I'm scared that if I just hook into this function, I'll have recoil whenever any of the players shoot. So I'll try to get into instance dot entity dot is local player. There you go. And then we do a if not is local player return. So we just exit this function. Otherwise, we can have a is right hand instance dot hand drag flash last shot recoil no tip torque. I'm gonna go web link dot hand dot fifth hand is left. There you go. Is right hand not this one. Okay. Huh. So what I'm doing here is now just taking apart the code. I'm trying to learn what the code does. This needs a lot of experience and knowing how developers usually name their functions. And this is where the meat of making the entire mod actually will happen. So is local player. If that's not true, then don't do anything. And then I'll want to know if the gun is held in the right or the left hand. So I'll make a Boolean variable that reads out some. Yeah, this is just good guessing because I've seen a lot of variables in my time. But you'll have to comb through those variables here and see which one contains information on which hand is holding the gun. And then I have my is right hand, and then I can play back something. Shoot. Gun recoil. There you go. What does it want? Gun recoil. It wants is right hand. Perfect. Is right hand. And I can give it an intensity and a two-handed as well. So this should already give me a recoil feedback in the right and left hand in this game. And that's all it is. Now you just do this very thing here 50 times for all the effects you want to integrate in the game. Let's see if that actually compiles already. So I am compiling now. Oh, I'm compiling to debug. I usually compile to release at some point. Easier that way. And then it should in here create a binary release net6 bhaptics tag DLL that's copied over. You will also enter into black bhaptics DLL, and then it should also, oh, we haven't done that, manually copy over this thing here, the bhaptics library DLL, otherwise it doesn't work. So here we go. These are just functions for files for debugging if you want to run a debugger, so you don't need them for the release. And these three should now actually already be a mod. If I copy those over to my into black mods folder, I should be able to maybe get a heartbeat even. Let me get my tag suit. Okay, I got my tag suit. And now I'll run the game. And you can see in the bhaptics, you can see here on the left, it'll start up. It'll already load my mod. It says it loaded that. See, into black connected to the bhaptics player, and I got my heart playback, my heart feedback. So if it works, if I got the right function, it'll actually already have a recoil effect on the right hand. And that's the basic setup for what I do to start up a mod. And now the work begins. That's combing through the code. I'll maybe show you some. I'll close this for now. Disconnected. Perfect. I'll show you what I would search for in .peak. I would probably search if there's a player function, which is usually very helpful if there's a player. That'll take a while because it's a library, a compiled library that .peak is searching through. So a player class, that's what I'm looking for. Here you go, player class. That actually looks like the one we want. So there's a player class here. And if we close the search, we'll see that in here we have a lot of functions. Add achievement progress. You could do some level up effect for that. No, no. Get achievement progress. Maybe there's a get achievement or something. Has flagged achievement. There you go. That would be the level up probably. And then on player loaded, that's when it's there. On player validate. Say from, no, that's not what we want. Player coin display, player collision. You could probably do something like on ground hit, you'll have a collider, and if the collider and the vector for the hit normal. So if this is too strong a collider, you can have some fall damage effect, and generally have the player, if he bumps into things, get some some feedback. Player health, that's really nice. Apply damage with hit data. This is probably interesting to hook into if the player applies damage, and it always player entity scene player you have to look for is local player if you have a multiplayer game like this. And then heal, you can have a heal function that has some cool healing effect. Get health and get local max health. Those should probably be stored here already. On death, there's a fun thing to hook into. On shield hit, health norm, float. I don't know. Yeah, but apply damage should be really good here. Apply damage and then heal, and yeah, you can check if the health is below a certain percentage or something. For example, here maybe player health bar. There you go. This should be it. On update, you can check if the green, orange, yeah, stuff like that. If player LOD, player move editor, player proxy, player spawner, player status. No, that's just a enumeration. Player teleport. You can have an effect on that probably. Teleport to next location. That's a function that you can hook into. Yeah, so those are usually a thing. Player is something that is really helpful because the most things that you want effects for are something that happens to the player. So searching for player classes and player methods is a good trick. And then searching for health is usually something, health or heal. And then searching for damage is usually something to get directional damage. And then searching for Yeah, guns and weapons, if you have those in the game, you can also search for those. And then just try to look for things that have, for events in the game that should be represented by haptic feedback. And that, yeah, should give you a good first start. All right. Then I'll upload this to YouTube now, and you can hopefully make your own mods. This is unedited and a total ramble, but it should give you an idea of where to start.